Well, ladies and gentlemen, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. It is Tuesday, the 19th of April, 2022, and welcome to the Accelerate and Multiply livestream. Now, today's guest is an international television host and the founder of Australia's most popular online broadcasting program. With an audience of more than 1 million people globally, she is known as the Self-Care Queen. And today she's going to share with you new insights, ideas and information to explode your social media profile. Would you please put your hands together and help me welcome our good friend, Toni Lontis. Welcome, Toni.
Thank you, Daniel. I'm so delighted to be here.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. Hey, a million people out there. That is phenomenal.
Really that many when you know there's billions and billions of people across the earth. A million's it's just a number. I'm very grateful though.
It's a beautiful number. I love the million. I love the $1 million mark, the million person mark. I was having a conversation with somebody recently, and we're talking about self-made millionaires, and they said it only takes 20 years to become a self-made millionaire. But building an audience of 1 million people is a very different story to amassing $1 million. So how long has it taken you to build this audience of 1 million people?
That's a great question, Daniel. So let me backtrack to 2019 when I published a book and had no thought about being a broadcaster. I think I probably seriously started to build all my social media networks the following year. So in 2020 until now in 2022. And that's with dedicated time each and every day connecting with people.
Now, that was in 2019, but you've got 35 years of clinical nursing and consulting history that came before that. Let's dive into that for a little bit. And what was your turning point after 35 years to get out of that and into what you're doing now?
So, Daniel, I trained as a nurse back in the good old days when we still trained in hospitals and had practical, for the most part, followed by short bursts of theatrical and theory within the hospital. And nursing changed completely not long after we were the second last group to be trained in a hospital in the state in which I lived, which was Queensland. So I was nursing. We got great education in emergency operating theatre, surgical, medical, all over the place, maternity, neonatal. But after 35 years, there were things within the health environment, and by that stage I was at corporate level, that I didn't feel that I had a sense of being able to change or influence. So at that time, I went into consulting. So I became a nurse consultant and zapped across Australia, prepping day surgeries in small hospitals to meet the national safety standards. So that is what keeps patients safe. And I was really passionate about that. But I still felt that there was something else. In the background of that was a whole heap of trauma and dysfunction. Bad things happened. Lots of healing was required. And in my 40s, it was in fact in my 40s that I'd started my self-discovery and learning journey. And that resulted in the publication of the book Resilience in 2019. And I stopped doing my consulting in July 2018, wrote the book, finished it in November 2018 and published it in November 2018, published in January 2019. So I just made a decision, stuck to it, told everyone, and I didn't have a big social media then, that I was writing a book, and this is when you can expect it, and that kept me accountable, which is a good thing.
Now, I see this a lot. I see a lot of people having this awakening. And I normally say that my clients come to me somewhere between the age of 35 through to about 55, and they start to have this awakening, and they've taken a lot of stuff and they kind of just put it over there and they repress it for a few years, maybe a couple of decades. And they say, when I'm feeling better, when I have the resources, I'm going to deal with all of that stuff. But if they don't deal with it by the age of 35, it starts to bubble up
To bubble up.
to the
And
surface.
that's exactly what happened to me. I had a complete physical and mental breakdown in my 40s. And lucky for me, I went to a GP who sat me down and said, Toni, if you don't start to heal, deal, stop working so hard and take some medication, you're not going to make it to 50. So that's kind of pretty, oops. It's that
A little
oops
slap
moment.
on the wrist.
Yeah. Yeah. It was much. I can laugh about it now, Daniel. Honestly, I can see the wisdom in the universe and the provision of a very caring, understanding, on his game GP in that moment at that time, and I am incredibly grateful for his words, despite how hard it was over the next 10 years. I might add.
I've heard a lot of people talk about psychosomatic illness and when our mind makes our body sick. And
Correct.
when I was working with a series of builders, I remember one gentleman, he was telling me his story, and he said, Daniel, I've been a builder my whole life and it's been neck-breaking work. And he said, I remember just repeating this same pattern of thought over and over and again. And he'd say to himself, if I don't get off the tools, I'm going to break my neck. I've got to get out of this place. I'm going to break my neck. He'd say, these men are breaking my neck. The customers are breaking my neck. And then he left work one day and he said, I've got to break my neck to get out of this bloody joint. And so he's driving home. He doesn't pay attention. All of a sudden, bang, T-bones a car. He gets thrown out the window. And what does he do? He breaks his neck. He breaks his neck and then he rejoices and he says, finally, I don't have to go back to that bloody job. And I said to him, I said, you didn't create that by any chance. And over the years, he realised that all of his thoughts, both conscious and unconscious, brought him to that point of time. And he didn't have the courage to leave because he was had the fear of leaving his comfort zone. He had the fear of the unknown. He had the fear of trying and failing. But he got what he wanted. And it took him a couple of years to realise it. But he said, I absolutely co-created in that. And I eventually got what I wanted.
Words have such power, Daniel, and if you're not paying attention to the words inside your mind, that self-talk, it will bring you down in an instant.
Do you recall some of the patterns of thought that you have? Because a lot of our clients, kind of when they meet me, Toni, they say, I feel stuck, but I don't know what to do next. And they're kind of at an interesting stage. They're not problem aware, and they're still not solution aware. They just have this knowing that they feel stuck.
Yeah.
And normally when we share some of these insights, especially my job to help my clients is to make the invisible visible. So if you could help them make it visible by sharing some of those things that you used to say, your explanatory style, that'd be a big help.
And Daniel, there's still moments in time where I still have some of those words running around in my brain. It's just I've got I know how to stop them. I know how to stop them in the tracks. But most of those were, I'm not good enough. What the heck do you think you're doing? I have no power. There are no solutions. I cannot get out of this. And just a feeling of shame and guilt because of all the things that I'd suffered and all the decisions I'd made. And it wasn't until I took that step of going, I'm at rock bottom. I am in a dark, horrible place, crying in a GP's surgery. That's a doctor's surgery. Him telling me if I don't do something, I'm not going to make it. So those dark thoughts were all in my head. They weren't actually true. I was actually quite high performing. I actually managed a whole heap of trauma in most aspects of my life, and I was doing okay. But those thoughts of I'm not good enough, I can't do this, I'm flawed, I am damaged, I am wrong. If you let those keep going through your mind, they will eventually bring you down and bring you to your knees. So you've got to learn from people like Daniel in particular, who knows what it's like and who's been there, and they can help lead you out. one of the most powerful things I learned in that first instance of time, and bad things from that day, worse things happened, and they continue to happen. But I now have a recipe that keeps me pretty stable. And one of those things is around breath work. And when things are really, really bad, you need to take your brain out of lizard brain. So that's fight or flight or adrenaline. You need to take your brain out of that space. The way that I do that, and the best way I know, is to take 5 deep breaths, telling yourself that you don't have to do anything. You don't have to say anything. You don't have to go anywhere. In this moment, all you have to do is breathe in and breathe out. And I'm telling you, it'll take you out of lizard brain and put you back into functional brain. And sometimes that's all you've got to do. Just breathe.
There you go, ladies and gentlemen. If you need to put a note down in your notebook, just breathe. And breathing, like the Hawaiians call it, they call it the ha breath. It's the breath of life. And we're so trying to be so conscious of everything these days that we're not even conscious of our breath. I say to my clients, who breathed you when you were asleep last night? And they go, who breathed me? I said, did you do that consciously? No. Stop and think about it for a moment.
Yeah.
So you've had
that
the background.
Conscious thought, Daniel. Conscious thought has power. And if you give the right thoughts that conscious attention, it changes everything.
Yeah. And attention is the most precious commodity on the planet. And we're very quick, and I believe that this is true for a lot of nurses. We're so quick to care for others that we forget about caring for ourselves. And for the nurses that I've worked with, I've seen that.
I had to learn, Daniel. I had to learn what self-care was. I had to learn what self-love was, and that it was okay. You know, I'd grown up thinking you were up yourself if you cared for yourself or showed any loving kindness. I used to beat myself up, in my head, of course, not physically, so badly. And that's what led to the whole catastrophe. That lack of being kind to myself. That you are a unique human being. You were created with power and purpose. No one can do what you do. No one can say what you say. They can try and copy and all the rest of it. But you are unique. And once you start to take that into your soul and really believe it, lots of things change. And self-love is the key to that.
I remember when I was growing up, I would look in the mirror and my mum would say, gee, he's vain. And I heard that and I really didn't understand what vanity was. And it appeared like, hey, maybe that's a bad thing. But I'd look in the mirror, and even today I look in the mirror and I'm trying to figure out who I am. I'm scratching the surface of who I am, but I'm truly trying to understand who I am. So I look in the mirror to try to get that reflection. Well, what am I projecting? What am I seeing? What am I not seeing? And I see my son today. He looks at himself in the mirror and he's like a peacock and he just keeps looking in the mirror. And my wife says, look at your son. He's looking at himself in the mirror. And I said, good on him. Good on him. And he's trying to figure out who he is. And so we went down to the street the other day and we were walking back past the toy shop and he wanted to get a pump to blow up some balloons. And so he went into the shop and he's only 4.5. And he walked in super confident because he gets so much love.
Bless him.
And he looks at the shopkeeper. Now, he looks Aussie, my boy, but he speaks perfect Chinese. And he looks at the shopkeeper and he says, hello, big handsome. Just looks at the guy. Hello, you're very handsome. And the shopkeeper got really shocked that this 4.5-year-old would say, you're really handsome. And the guy didn't respond to him out of shock. And my son replied and said, excuse me, big handsome. He's like, you're very handsome. And the shopkeeper laughed and said, he goes, oh, thank you so much. It's a nice compliment. And this is all happening in Chinese. And he looked at my boy and he said, well, he said, you're a xiao shui ge, which means small handsome. And my boy corrected him. He said, I'm not small handsome. You call me big handsome.
To be able to put that level of confidence into each child under 4, wouldn't that be a powerful thing for the world, Daniel?
So powerful. You know, one of the big takeaways from personal development that I've learned is that When we tend to have confidence problems, when we lack self-worth, lack self-esteem, the roots are in the first 7 years of our life. And if
Yeah.
we don't get that uninterrupted flow of unconditional love from
Yeah.
our parents, then we grow up with self-esteem problems.
Yeah.
So one of my roles as a father, yes, I would like to provide my children with all the toys and all the things they could have.
But
But my
love.
priority is to give them an unbroken chain and flow of love, because I know money can't buy that,
No.
and it will get into their DNA. And when they're our age, when they're 30 and 40
Yes.
and 50,
Protects their souls.
they will have that confidence, that self-worth. And my boy at 50 will say, hey, call me Big Handsome.
Yeah.
And he'll be
And
so
what a
confident
good
in who he is.
thing. What a good thing.
Yeah, and it's not, vanity. I always thought vanity was a negative thing. But what I've learned over the years is that everybody's vain. Everybody is vain. It's why we buy handbags. It's why we put our makeup on. It's why we do our hair. And everybody wants to look their best. And I don't think we should shame people for
No.
vanity. If you have worked hard and you buy that car and it makes you feel good and it boosts your confidence, excellent. Go and get another one. If the
Yeah.
luxury goods make you feel good, go and do it. And we're all vain. And we shouldn't make it seem like it's a negative thing. Look in the mirror. I worked with a guy years ago, Tony, and
Yeah.
I went into his house and I said, what the hell's going on in here? And he said, what do you mean? I said, all the mirrors are covered up. And he said, I didn't think you'd notice it. And I said, how can you not notice it? Every mirror has a newspaper over it. And he said, I
Oh my
don't like the
goodness.
look of what I see. And I said,
Oh
well,
no.
covering the mirror's not going to change the way you think about yourself. I said, we better deal with that. And
Yeah.
he had lived like that for years. He had physically taped up all the mirrors in the house so he couldn't see his own reflection. And again, he
I
didn't
had
have
a
that
similar
unconditional chain.
relationship with mirrors because you might not think so now, but the congenital facial defect that I was born with rendered my left side of my face non-functional. And so it didn't start to heal until much into my 40s and 50s. It didn't start to heal. So when I was younger, your son's age indeed, I couldn't smile. Like I could not relate to people. Like there was just no functional smile happening. So I couldn't look at mirrors for decades and decades. And I had to learn to look back at that child, take that child and go, it was okay. You were doing the best that you could, and the people around you didn't understand, and that's okay. You now know, so make sure you tell people the importance of looking in a mirror and going, wow, that's a good looking smile. And I had to do that for 10 years, Daniel, before I could look at myself on photos even. And it's taken this online broadcasting role for me to actually look at myself on a camera and go, it's okay, Toni. It's all right. You're you. You're uniquely you. That's okay. Because it's really hard when you grow up looking at that smile and it's so crooked and so not right. And even once it's healed, that memory sticks in your brain. So you've got to flip it over and you've got to change it and you've got to just keep doing it. Keep looking in that mirror and going, you're okay. You're unique. You're a divine human being. You have a purpose. You're okay. Sometimes that's all it takes. Days and days of saying, you're okay. Everything's going to be fine.
And with what you're doing now, and I'm just processing this, you've got to face that on the camera every day.
Every single day. And I tell you, Daniel, there's some days when I'm just like, what the hell do you think you're doing? And then that switch is flipped because I've done work, like the work that you do with your clients. I've done the work. And immediately, almost within a fraction of a second, it's you're okay. You were born to do this. You have a message. You need to show up because you showing up gives millions of other people permission to do the same thing. Because if I show up imperfect as I am, that gives other people permission. And I don't want to stop other people from living their life purpose either.
Imperfection. I had this
Yes.
conversation with somebody recently, and I said, when we go to
Mm,
Australia, Ninny and I and the kids, we go down to Woolworths,
yes.
and you go into the shopping centre and you look at all this perfect fruit. All
Yes.
the bananas are perfectly shaped, all the oranges are the same size, all the apples are being waxed, and there's not a bloody blemish on anything. It looks like all the foods come out of a factory. And I think here we're even trying to
Yes.
say perfection. My mum used to say to me, Daniel, perfect practice makes perfect. And I used to say, how the hell do you bloody practice perfection? and
Yeah. It's
and
unattainable, isn't it, Daniel? Like it's just
unattainable.
it's and it shouldn't ever be. Yes, strive to do your best. Yes, strive to be the best person you can be, but you're never going to be perfect. We're human. It's in our DNA that we're not going to be perfect.
And here it's the opposite in Taiwan. You
Yeah.
go down to the market here, and we still have our traditional markets. The bananas
Mm,
is bruised on the outside. It's got all these brown marks on it. But
yeah.
you peel that layer of skin back,
And it's
and it's
good.
perfect on the inside. It tastes
Yes.
good. It smells like a banana.
Yes.
But you open these bananas in Australia and you bite into it, it's like, there's no taste.
No, yeah.
And I think that symbolises a lot of our life at the moment. You get these beautiful
Mm,
and glamorous photos
yes.
on social media, on Instagram, but then you peel back a couple of the layers and there's no
Yeah.
taste behind it,
Yeah.
no
Yeah.
depth to it.
And that's hard in the society that we live in now. Although I do hope it's changing, Daniel. I do hope that people are seeing imperfection as being beautifully unique and not something to be frowned on.
Mm,
Because I think that's been a downfall of social media is to project perfection when
mm,
that's just a smoke screen. You know,
mm,
much more important is your soul and your heart and how you treat people and how you love people. That's way more important than the glossy photos that you see on social media. And I had to spend a lot of time telling myself that it's okay. You don't have to be perfect. It's okay. Just show up as you. Your heart will shine through.
mm.
Even now, like even today, getting on a call with you, Daniel, because I'm so in awe of you as a person and a human being. I'm like, it's okay, Tony. It's the end of a long day. You know that my eye at this time of day gets really lazy and my smile's not quite as perfect. And I'm like, it's okay. It's Daniel. It's Daniel. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's Daniel. Again and again, like, so even me. And I think if we start to have these conversations and tell people that that's okay, that's a fundamental part of being human and it makes you real and authentic and gives you purpose.
One thing I'm trying to do, Tony, with Caesar at the moment, because he's going to be 5 soon,
Yeah.
is I want him to have that curiosity and not feel ashamed of
Mm,
being curious. Because
yeah.
when we're younger and we see imperfection and we
Hmm.
stare at it out of curiosity, often we get a clip across the ears or don't stare at people. But we're naturally curious. And
We
Caesar
are.
and I were walking through the park the other day, and it was Sunday afternoon. It was really hot, and 2 gentlemen walked in front of us. And
Yeah.
Caesar, in his big voice, he said, "Oh, Dad, look, he's got a robot leg." And he
Oh,
said it really loud.
wow.
And I thought I could have gone in 2 directions, like shut the hell up and slap him across the
Yes.
back of the ears, or
Mm,
say, that's true. And so I said to him, yes, he does have a robot leg.
mm,
How cool is that? I
mm.
wonder what's
What the
happened.
story? Yeah.
And so him and I are just talking about the backstory, and, he's just learning to converse. And I said, sometimes men, women have accidents on motorbikes and maybe had an accident. And we've got doctors in the world who can create these robot legs and he
Mm.
can continue to walk. So I kept that dialogue going because he was curious and I want him to
Oh,
have that
fantastic.
conversation.
Mm.
And then the gentleman stopped, and you could see that he was in a lot of discomfort. And so
Oh,
I just said,
yeah.
just slow down and let's just watch what he's going to do. So he's adjusting his leg, and Caesar's going,
Mm,
wow, he can move his robotic leg.
mm.
And then he was massaging his back. And so we were
Yeah.
having the conversation that he was different. We didn't really call it a disability. He was just
No.
different, and he had a
Yeah.
robotic leg, and it's given him the ability to walk. And
Yeah.
then I said, we need to have compassion for these people
Mm. Yeah.
because their life journey is going to be different. And
Yeah.
you could see the approach. It was curious. And he was
Yeah.
like, wow, I wonder how this works. And we
Yeah.
kept that conversation going. And then we came home and I said, hey, Mum, Caesar just saw a man with a robotic leg. And he was so like, oh, Mum, you wouldn't believe it. This guy was half a robot. And he loved it. But he
Yes,
wasn't punished for that curiosity. And I think what happens is
definitely.
because we've been punished in the past for curiosity, we don't want to approach these topics and ask
Mm,
somebody, hey, may I ask
yeah.
what's happened
What
here? Because
happened?
once we get that out of our mind,
Yeah.
then we can give them a full attention. Because I've had it before. I had a friend and he grew some really strange eyelashes out the corner of his eye.
Yes.
But I
Yeah.
looked at it and then I said to myself, don't look at that. And as soon as you say, don't look at that, what do you want to do?
Your
You want to
brain
look at
just
it.
goes
And then he
immediately
eventually
to
said
that.
to me, he said, are you looking at my eyebrows caught up on the inside of my eye? And I went, yes, and I'm so sorry. I said, I was just really curious. What is it? And he explained it to me and I went, oh,
Yes,
wow, I've never heard of that before.
the story, Daniel. Humans are
Yeah.
connected by stories. And if we can just get back to your son's curiosity from a 4-year-old, that if we were curious about people that were different and asked them gently, respectfully about their story, you'd be amazed what you would hear. And I'm so glad you're teaching him that, Daniel.
Got to get curious. I
Yeah.
was in Dubai and I met some guys and I shook their hand and I was shaking their hand and I tried to get my hand back after the handshake. But the handshake went from about 5 seconds to about 10 seconds and about 15
Yes,
seconds and about
yes.
30 seconds later, this Sri Lankan guy is still holding my hand. And I'm thinking, am I ever going to get my hand back? And then about 60 seconds later, he's still holding my hand. And I thought to myself, there's something to learn here. So
Yes.
after we stepped out of the cafeteria, I asked him, I said, you were holding my hand for a long time. And as an Australian, we normally have
That's
a quick, firm handshake. But what I
yeah.
felt here was something different. I said, what was that? And why were you holding my hand for so long? And
Yeah.
he said, what I was doing was I was sensing your energy. And he said, I really liked your energy. And in our culture, if I feel something that's got a good energy, I'm going to hold on to it because I feel safe, I feel comfortable. And that's why I then introduced you to my friends because
Oh,
I felt
Daniel,
that you're a
that's
nice person.
beautiful. Oh, that's beautiful.
And I thought, isn't that fascinating? And then about 2 years later, he was
Mhm.
my best man at my wedding. And then I flew all the way over to Ireland for his wedding. And it all started with
Oh,
just a handshake.
wow. Wow. We as humans, again, something else we need to recognize that we're not just blood and bone and a physical shape. We're energy. Energy is important, and it's becoming more and more important in this day and age with all the things that are happening across the planet for us to start to tune into the energy. Because believe you me, if there were more humans that could tune into energy, we wouldn't have wars. We wouldn't have a whole range of things that are bad if people were able to tune into energy and circumvent things before they got to the place where we have war, we have whatever.
Imagine these people who look down on planet Earth saying, what are these idiots doing killing themselves?
Correct.
It's a
Correct.
wild place. Now, we went about 3,000 kilometres around the long way home. And the question that I really wanted to ask was, what's the problem that you're helping your clients solve today? So we know you've been through your past traumas. You've started to tell your story in 2019. What's the problem that you're solving for your clients today?
So, Daniel, I help entrepreneurs, coaches, consultants, business owners, companies, brands leverage the power of online broadcasting to create their own shows and content to help them build new global audiences, open them up to new marketplaces, strategically drive new forms of revenue, and assist them in taking the lead in the global marketplace. Simple as that.
And for them to get there, everybody can access the knowledge today. Everybody can get the skill. What are some of those internal constraints? What are some of those fears that they have to get through to be
Absolutely.
able to start to broadcast themselves?
So, Daniel, for a lot of people, again, people might look at us on the screen and go, oh, that's so easy for them. But it's not, number one. It doesn't come naturally for many of us, number two. And that's what was the inception of the programs that I run. I kept getting people say, I could never do what you do. I could never do it by myself. I don't have the time. I don't have the understanding. And that was the development of the packages. Done for you, done with you, and you're not alone. I'm there co-hosting the show. It's my job to show the world your wisdom and knowledge. And we do it in a series of shows. Really simple.
And once they start to get their story out there through these shows, and I believe that story selling is so
Absolutely.
important today. I have this conflict, and I've always had it. And I remember when I got into real estate, come on, let's nail down this 30-second elevator pitch.
Yeah.
And the first thing I thought is, there's no bloody elevators in the bloody area where I live. I live in the western suburbs. I don't put up with that city stuff.
There's no lifts.
I ain't a city slicker. And I used to be really conflicted because I don't like to be pitched to. I don't like to be pitched to. I don't mind somebody coming and solving a problem, but I don't want somebody to pitch me. I want to figure this out for myself. And you said before, energy. And I love watching documentaries. I love listening to podcasts because it's that long form story. I'm getting a feeling. It's like I'm at the table with them. I'm discovering how that ebb and that flow. And I really like that. And I'm seeing a lot of people today buying from webinars because they get to
because they get the video.
You.
They get to see and feel your energy. That makes a difference. In a cluttered global marketplace, you want to stand out as just being you, because that's good enough. Yeah?
Yep. It is. Unique. There's no uniqueness. There's no unique-er or uniquing. Unique is singular.
Absolutely. There's only one you.
And everybody else is taken.
Yeah. So you've got to be you to your best ability. You've got things that you've been through. You've got knowledge. You've got experiences. You've got wisdom. You've got capacity, capability that make you completely unique. And that's why I like to work one-on-one with my clients, because I get to know lots and lots about them, their personality, and all the good things that make them a phenomenal human being, and then tell the globe. It's wonderful. I'm so lucky.
And I can see it unfolding. I know you're working with Mario Beckish, and I can see him. He's blossoming. His confidence, his message is there.
Mario is a divine human being. And again, what a gift. What a gift to be able to work one-on-one with a man like Mario. Like, it's just divine pleasure from my perspective.
So for our clients who want to learn more about the online broadcaster training, can you give us an insight into the training and let us know where we can learn more about the online broadcaster program?
So the programs, and Daniel's going to share a link with you at the end of the show. And the best way is to use my calendar link and jump on a call, and I will tell you how we do this. So it's a done for you, done with you, strategic way of looking at using video content, audio content, layering it across the internet, using email broadcasts, newsletters, blogs, social media, digital magazine articles, traditional PR, but we use non-traditional broadcasting to do that, because I can get that person out to more places in one show. So the idea is for busy business owners, one show, some training with me, and off we go and create magic.
I love that. I love the words done for you. I love the words done with you, because I think today we have to become so specialized in our role. It's like, I'm a coach. I can coach really good, but I can't do everything else. I can't write
and there's
emails.
a lot, Daniel.
I can't do all the programming.
let's be realistic. For business owners today, you and I know that we have to provide touch points where people connect with you, and there's a lot of them that you have to before someone will engage or even give you a second thought. I forget off the top of my head what the number is, but it's like 15 times someone has to see you, hear about you, connect with you in some way before they'll even look at anything else you do. So to create content that does that and use it wisely, to do that is the way forward and into the future.
The numbers I heard, Toni, recently, and I think yours are so generous, I heard somebody say 32 touch points.
I was just going to say it's probably way more than that now.
And consuming 7 hours of your content in my industry. So as a coach, people want to experience 7 hours. Now, I would love to sit down and talk to people for 7 hours. I would love to do it. My wife would kill me. My kids would come and say, Dad, come home. Come home. Where are you? But through this broadcasting and what you're doing for your clients, they can converse with tens of thousands of people, hundreds of thousands of people simultaneously. And this is going to be the way of the future. We're not going to go back into the past where we used to go and knock on doors. Knock, knock, knock. Hello, it's Daniel, the local real estate agent. How long have you lived here? People aren't home anymore. People don't want to talk to you at the door. They want to do it from the privacy of their home. And I think what you're doing here, it just accelerates the impact for your clients. It's awesome.
And there's lots of wonderful things when you co-create with someone. So that's what I see that I do. It's a co-creation project. I'm leveraging my network and what I do with you and your business to get you global impact. That's it. In a nutshell, that's it.
I like driving my car. I like having my wife in there with me to talk to me on the way. It's such a nicer experience. I do webinars, and I find webinars such a lonely experience, Toni. I'm on there.
Hard work too.
I'm talking to 1,000 people, and there's nothing coming back. I can't see their faces. And I get off the webinar, and I often say to my wife, she goes, "How do you feel?" I go, "I feel great because I've done what I've loved, but the energy's not there because there's no feedback."
Yes.
But once I'm doing a live like this, it's nice because you've got that ebb and flow. You learn something and you relax, and people can see your real personality. And I think this really brings out the best in people because you can't ask yourself the questions that somebody else would ask you. Somebody else is not going to have the level of curiosity about, you're not going to have that level of curiosity about your own story as somebody else hearing it for the first time going,
Daniel,
excuse me, can you just go back there for a moment? I want to talk about that.
And that's the thing. I am super curious. So you spoke about I have like a 4-year-old's curiosity. So when someone's talking, like let's go back to Mario, who is in the intelligence industry. There is so much good stuff to talk to Mario about that I just try and stick to what I know that we need to talk to. But I often get waylaid because I am so curious about all those other bits and pieces. And I think that's something that has been gifted to me, is that innate curiosity. I genuinely love and like people. I genuinely am invested in their success. I want to know what you do, how you do it, why you're passionate about it, and I want to tell other people about it. It's really simple.
I love it. I love it. My wife, Toni, she says, Daniel, you need to socialize more. I said, no, I don't. She said, why not? I said, because I podcast. She said, that's the silliest thing I've ever heard. I said, you wouldn't believe it. I said, it's awesome because previously you'd have to go out with friends and you'd have to listen to all the trash talk. But the trash talk doesn't water my seeds. It doesn't make my soil fertile. And so after a while, I don't want to hear the gossip. I don't want to hear the whinging. I don't want to hear the moaning. I don't want to hear the complaining. I want an intelligent conversation. So I say to my wife, I podcast 8-9 times a week, and I meet these phenomenal people, and you get cut through all the fluff, and you have those beautiful, deep conversations.
It's delicious, Daniel, and it is the way of the future. So traditional media, as we know it, is going to fall by the wayside because people want to watch and listen to real human beings. They want to connect with authentic people telling their stories about what they do, how they do it, talking about their experiences, and helping one another. And yes, of course, by all means, movies, series, I love to switch off watching a good series. But if you want to find out about people in business and day-to-day ways to help you be the best person, help you in business, help you in your company, all of that you will find on non-traditional media. So I'm talking about non-traditional TV shows, I'm talking about podcasting, I'm talking about streaming radio, I'm talking about places like YouTube and Facebook and LinkedIn, etc., etc. They will become more important as a source for people to find the information that they want about whatever it is they're thinking about. And you know, when you are producing video content on a regular basis, then the internet and Google, they all start to go together and they go, oh, Daniel's on at 6 o'clock such and such a day, every Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, etc., etc., etc. Something magical happens, and before long, there's people going, oh, and then the internet picks up that video and you'll get shown to more places. You'll get connected with more people. That's the way that it works, and it's amazing.
So cool. I love it. I feel like I want to reinvent myself and become an internet geek. I love it.
I don't pretend to know all the stuff and all the tech because there's so much coming, Daniel, but I do know that if ever we want to be connected to a global marketplace, it is now and in the next 10 years, and the internet and non-traditional broadcasting is definitely the way to go.
100%. Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to go and visit Toni's website, and I'm going to share the link right after we end this live, and make sure you click on it and go schedule a session with Toni and learn about it. The world is not going back to how it was. We're not going to go back to these live events, and my clients are saying to me, Daniel, I would like to come to your events if they were online. A client of mine in Queensland, he wouldn't even fly to Sydney because he said, Daniel, I got to get up at 4 in the morning. I won't get to the training room on time. Then I've got to try to get home, and I'm not going to go home till 11. And I did my training online.
Convenient.
He said, Daniel, I love to watch you in 4K. He goes, I rolled out of bed, I sat on my yoga mat all day, and I loved the training, and I didn't have to come to Sydney. And I said, perfect.
Phenomenal.
And that's what we're going to be doing, and that's where we're going in the future.
I think so. Yeah. It gives people much more flexibility around how they spend their time. And if you're a business person, you can tune in to a session with Daniel, spend a couple of hours, and still do a whole day's work or meet with people or whatever it is that you've got going on in your life. It gives you the flexibility to run your life and your business the way that you want to.
I love it. I love it. Ladies and gentlemen, jump on the link. We'll be up there in 10 seconds. Toni, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom, your great vibes. Thank you for taking us on a journey into the past, into your past history, and then also putting us out there into the future to understand what's possible for us and our businesses. And I really appreciate that.
Daniel,
Ladies and gentlemen,
so much.
My pleasure. Make sure you follow Toni Lontis. Follow her on social media today, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Have a wonderful day. Ciao for now.
Thanks, Daniel. Bye.
Thanks, Toni.